Okay, looks like we got everybody that's going to be joining us. Welcome to the highs and lows of the downtown condo market, the essential guide to buying downtown. Introduce ourselves real quick. We're going to introduce ourselves real quick. My name is Patrick Birdsong. I am a second-generation realtor. Been selling real estate in Austin for about 8 years, and I am a downtown condo resident. So you'll get a little bit of my firsthand experience of living and working actually downtown. Gail Boston is our big-time downtown expert in the office. Her knowledge of what's going on downtown is unsurpassed, and she's going to be leading this charge here. So alongside Gail is Elsa Decker. Elsa works for Heritage Title Company. She's a VP and Director of Residential Marketing. And real quick, a lot of people don't know what a title company does. And basically, without them in the real estate transaction, you don't get to close. You don't get to buy that property. And they also ensure that the property, the title to the property transfers properly. So they are essential to the process of buying and selling real estate. Elsa's claim to fame in this conversation is that Heritage Title closes more downtown condos than any other company, especially the new projects. So she has intimate knowledge of what's going on in the downtown condo market. Gail, Elsa, thank you so much for joining me, and let's get going.
Well, thank you.
Thank
It's
you
great
for
to be
having me.
here.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
So real quick, let's define downtown. What exactly are we talking about when we talk about downtown condos?
It's a pretty straight up little area. It is literally 20 by 20 blocks according to the Central Business District definition. If you go north to MLK Boulevard and west to Lamar, east is I-35, and then all the way south to the lake. And you can call it Town Lake, Lake Lady Bird.
Changes about every
it
5
will change.
years.
So it's just something to confuse out-of-towners, which is our favorite thing in Austin.
It's good to know that Austin's CBD is actually small in comparison. We're really compact, and that there's a lot of good things about that. But in comparison to other cities our size, 20 by 20 is not that big of a space, and there's a lot that you can get done in a relatively small amount of walking. It's also good to know that a lot of people would consider those condos just south of the river as also being part of the downtown mix, even though they're technically out of the CBD. They do provide a lot of the same amenities as those downtown,
Now,
so we'll talk about those later.
CBD means what?
Central Business District.
Got it. Okay,
So that's the official definition.
Let's look at a visual real quick if y'all want to talk about that.
And again, as Elsa said, we have to include that area on the south side of the lake near the Pfluger Bridge and along Barton Springs and the hike and bike trail. So we really consider, when we're referring to downtown as realtors and looking for an area, that's in our compass.
Even though south of the lake is the 78704, it's the wild child of the downtown zip codes in my mind.
And people play with the area number 2 in MLS, so it's a lot of fun.
Great. Let's talk about some claims to fame for downtown Austin.
Here we're just going to give you a quick snapshot, and Austin is a safe city overall, and it's the 5th safest city compared to other cities the same population, and the downtown area command is the 2nd safest in all of Austin. So Elsa talks about area command. You can describe what that actually refers to.
Well, I pull that just from what the police officers use. They divide up the city into several different sectors, and then they call them area commands. And so downtown is its own section. And
Oh, come on, say it.
the downtown area command is the 2nd safest in all of Austin. But overall, what's good to pull away from this is that, as you mentioned, Gail, Austin is a safe city, and out of all of Austin, the downtown area is the 2nd safest of all. Most cities can't say that about their downtown. Ours is
That's a really good
really,
point.
yeah, definitely on the lower end of the crime spectrum.
So you can walk or Segway late at night and feel completely comfortable.
And we do.
Well, my favorite thing is what Elsa told us is that most people will say, okay, so downtown's second, what's first? And we don't have an answer for that one, do we? But
I'll have to get back with you on that. I need to ask my neighbor who's
I
a
know.
cop.
well, for this
I know,
webinar,
We have our guesses.
yeah.
We know.
All right, some more stats on this.
Yeah, and this is just to give you an idea of the volume. 8.3 million square feet of office space. It's really a mixed environment, mixed community. There are 67,000 downtown employees that come every weekday. There are 9,000 to 11,000 residents that live there. There are 5.4 thousand hotel rooms and over almost 400,000 residents within a 10-minute drive to downtown Austin. And that's a very significant number. People are coming in and out of downtown all day long.
Well, and when you consider that, you think about for a retail establishment in downtown, that is a lot of potential buyers to have walking by your shop. And when you look at the numbers of how many people are in and out of downtown on a daily basis, that's nothing when you start to consider the amount of tourism that Austin pulls and how many more people are actually in on temporary basis.
Now, so is this 54,000 hotel rooms or 5,400?
5,400.
So that seems small for as many tourists that come in.
Oh, it's no doubt that almost everyone who lives here knows that we have a undercapacity as far as hotel rooms go in our downtown area. They are quickly wanting to add more.
Mm-hmm.
Especially this last weekend for South by Southwest when almost 19,000 attendees stormed our downtown and made it a really lively and fantastic environment.
And I think 19 is a low number.
Yes,
I think that's official, right? That's the official
exactly.
badge holders.
We're trying to be official here.
There's a lot more than that.
We don't want to spread rumors.
All right, so there's the map of it. Now, you want to...
Well, this is, again, courtesy of Heritage Title. It's a great little image to me because, personally, each one of these 27 red dots represents a little beehive, a little community and neighborhood unto itself. Each condo building has its own personality, its own composition of residents, its own amenities, price points, and really there's something for everyone. And so I love this because this doesn't even represent the rental units that are there. This is strictly condos for sale.
Absolutely. We put this map together originally to help both realtors and buyers alike, because when you're driving downtown, you're not used to it. Every building from the outside sometimes can look the same. You don't know whether it's office or whether it's residence, and if it is a residence, is it a condo or is it a apartment? And these dots make up only those that are condo. There are other residential units that are rental, but we did not include that. And there's right now 27 buildings that you could potentially find a unit to purchase.
And again, this doesn't even reflect that south of Lake Lady Bird area in Barton Springs. So
You got two little dots down
we got
there.
two little dots.
We-
I'm not sure
we-
what those are, but
We give nod to Bridges on the Park right there on Lamar, and then Barton Place, which is on Barton Springs. And there are others, but those are the two newest and the two that are most often considered alongside the ones in the in the actual CBD.
Great. All right, let's talk about some of the downtown economics here.
Well, when you speak about downtown Austin, it's really not us versus them. It's one big happy family, because downtown Austin, the health of downtown Austin is a key economic driver and indicator for all of Austin. It generates $158 million in taxes for the community, and a number that's really vital is 80 cents out of every downtown dollar goes to outside areas, goes to support areas outside of the downtown.
Yes, and that's because the downtown 20 by 20 grid is so small. There's only a certain amount of city services that are needed by those who occupy it at this time. So there's only so many streets, it's going to be the same number, so the upkeep and the maintenance is the same. There's only, so many individuals that police need to patrol, so that's the same. EMS, fire, it remains relatively the same, but the economic impact that comes out of everything that happens there, the vibrancy of that, the tourism, and those that live there, it actually generates so much more that's needed elsewhere outside of downtown for neighborhoods. A lot of roads, a lot of lights, a lot of everything that the city
police
maintains.
Force, back to our area command. One thing too, though, is this really puts it in white and green, because when you think about sprawl versus density, this is where density gets to be a very powerful economic driver for a community. It also has positive environmental effects, which, that's a whole different subject, but, it's hugely important to the success of Austin.
Definitely. So let's talk about the residents that live downtown.
Okay. So since 2000 census, over 2,000 condominiums have been built and almost 2,000 apartment units have been built. So it's a relatively small number, actually, and we'll talk about how that's affecting supply and demand later.
Great. So about half and half, though, condos versus apartments.
And this chart I love, because if you look at sort of the cyclical lifestyles of Austinites way back into the 1950s, the downtown living was pretty popular. In fact, it actually mirrors the number of residents that are there now in 2010. It dipped to its lowest in 1975 through 2000 and then rose up again in 2006. But I'm a native Austinite, and I remember when there were, tumbleweeds going down Congress Avenue. And it's pretty amazing to see what has happened and how exciting it is as a community.
It actually speaks to a little bit of the two development, well, I'm sure there's more than two, but the two development models that we're going to talk about today, one being sprawl and the other being density that you mentioned earlier. And you can see where, back before in the 1940s, Austin was a lot smaller and relatively dense, not to the same level that we define it today, but back then everybody lived closer to downtown. They worked closer to downtown. There was only so much of Austin that was developed, and then we had baby boom and people sprawling and everybody moving out to the suburbs, and now you see others starting to rethink that and come back in.
That's amazing. I love that we've got a little bit of a history lesson here at the same time. This is great. All right, so actual inhabitants. We talked about how many units are down there, but actual people.
So right now, and it depends on the source, it's anywhere from 9,000 to 11,000 residents living there. And that averages out to 1.5 per condo or per unit. And, what that means is people are having to make decisions about the two-car, two-person lifestyle. So someone might have to give up their car. And it's really changing the lifestyle habits of Austinites.
When you think about it, 11,000 inhabitants in a city the size that Austin is, in its downtown core, really is small compared to other cities of the same size. Typically, the downtown areas are larger, but the percentage of those who choose to live downtown is much larger. We're just scraping the surface with 11,000.
Well, we can't forget that we do live in Texas, and in Texas, people love their cars and their land.
That's true.
It's a change of mindset more than anything.
It's true, but we also love to have a good time, and that's easily done living in downtown.
Great point. All right, I want to keep talking a little bit about the numbers here.
Yeah.
Stats.
So, just quick to touch on this, of all the recently built or completed buildings, 60% have already sold, and that's a huge number. So 60% of 2,000 units have already sold or they're pending. And since 2007, the price range is roughly $185,000 all the way up to $8 million per unit. And if we just look at average prices, right now the newer built ones are going for $510,000 per unit. Overall, the average, according to MLS, is closer to $350,000. So that includes older buildings, and there's a huge span, as you can see, of almost $200.
So 185 to 8 million, that's every budget, every lifestyle almost, right?
Exactly.
Well, and it's also good to know that 185 to 8 million is what the developer sells for. Now, there are condos that are worth well more than that because of what the buyer has done to the finish out. So
Sure.
don't let that 8 million fool you as far as a determining factor to, what a unit might cost on the resale further on down the line. And another good thing to note is that on that 60% of all of those recently built, it's just the recently built. So if you look at all of the condo buildings that are available downtown, you're looking at 90% sold. What's left to purchase is really a very small number.
Good to
And
know.
then the average unit size is about 1,200 square feet. And that's a good sized condo.
Definitely a
for
good size,
cities.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you want to talk about some of these newer projects?
Sure. Elsa, do you want to talk about the Austonian and Four Seasons?
Well, sure. The ones that you're seeing on your screen are the newest to come to the market, spring in late 2009 and all the way to the W, who was just the beginning of 2011, and the other two in between. There's actually a fourth that's 904 West, and it actually is, a fifth at 904 West. It's actually completely different from the four that are listed. Most of the buyers think of these four as the premier luxury condos, and they're all high rises. And 904 West is a low rise, and it's on the lower end of the spectrum as far as price per square foot. So it's somewhat more affordable, but it's a completely different model. It's more live work, and it's just on the outskirts or out of the noise of downtown. So
Well, the finish outs are not lacking now.
no, they are not.
Yeah.
No, those are definitely they are as swanky as the rest of them, but it is a completely different project. And all of these buildings are seeing really a lot of activity as far as their sales are concerned. But each building is different, and most are well into the 60%, the high 60% sold range. Yes, and then there's others that are in the upper 40s to mid 50s. So your average of 57% really runs the gamut. It really depends on which building you're.
And 904, I think, has some of the lowest HOAs available too. So that's really nice.
It's an affordable option for sure.
Yep.
Great. So, test driving downtown. A lot of people talk about this. You want to get into test driving it?
Well, when we first meet a client who's interested in downtown, we talk at length, and it's a big decision, a big lifestyle change. So sometimes it's great just to rent first. And I have one client; he's on his third building, so he's sort of taking a sampling. It's a terrific, flexible way to go. But what's interesting now is the numbers are changing dramatically because the demand is so high, and I remember a few years back when the Monarch actually pulled the plug on becoming a condo, and it was sort of a default position to become an apartment complex. Now it's the most sought after buildings, renting to celebrities, and they're fully booked. So anyway, that's just a little tangent, but rents are going up. We've seen about a 30% increase. It's now at a high of $2.08 a square foot, versus the rest of Austin, which is about $1 a square foot. And occupancy rates are 95, 96, 98%, depending on who you're talking to. When we see a rental unit on the market that one of our clients wants, we jump on it because they're going in days now.
Definitely.
Speaks to a lot of the demand for living in downtown Austin, and to be able to get away with over $2, double the amount that any other apartment in the rest of the city can charge, means that there are that many people who want that unit. Mm-hmm. And while I agree completely that renting first to kind of taste test what living in downtown might mean to your lifestyle, it's a great idea. But at the same time, when you have this level of demand and so few units available to actually purchase, or to rent for that matter, it might be a good idea just to go ahead and take the plunge if there's that many people who want it.
Sure.
you can get out of it later.
Well, it speaks to the resale value in my mind that if there's that many people who are demanding to lease, there's that many more that are demanding to buy. So it becomes a safer investment when you have that level of demand.
Long term, definitely.
Long term.
Yeah, and even as an investment.
Definitely. Well, and then like I said, my building where I live, some of the units actually come up for lease. They're meant to be for sale. And a lot of people lease for a year and then end up buying another unit or staying there and buying that one. So that happens a lot within the apartments, but also within the condos themselves too.
And then this just gives you a little visual of the rental cycle in downtown. And you can see it dips down in 2003 very dramatically. And then again, 2008, 2009, and then spikes up again in 2010. So we're really at a high for occupancy rates right now. It's getting very fierce.
And you have to remember, too, that occupancy is a result of availability. And, in 2003, I think there were a couple of bigger buildings that just recently came on the market.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a flood of available units, and I believe that's what that dip represents, rather than taking it as less people wanting to be here.
So there's more inventory and the market just needed to catch up with it.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And it seems like every investor right now is looking to pick up an apartment building. Just if you look at the stats about the future of Austin's growth, it bodes very well for apartment complexes. And again, the Monarch's a great example.
So here we got a list of a few of the different apartments. You want to talk about those real quick?
Well, sure. And, again, each one of these has different personalities. And Patrick, you were mentioning something about Legacy on the Lake in terms of their eco-friendly status.
Yeah, a lot of times you think of apartments, you think of they're doing it a little bit cheaper, and or they're not doing it as green as you'd like it to be. Well, Legacy on the Lake is the only LEED certified residential high-rise downtown. That means that they qualified with the U.S. government standards of energy efficiency. So it's not just the windows are tighter and the toilets are low flow. It's the building's design was meant to be more energy efficient overall. So it's something that's pretty incredible for an apartment complex to come up with.
The Ashton is a very cool building. They really designed it beautifully with Austin in mind. It has the rooftop views are some of the nicest I've seen, and they've got cooling systems with misting roofs, and they have a fireplace, beautiful pool. They have a theater. So really, you can get very posh with a rental. It's
definitely it can feel a lot like a condo in a lot of ways.
Terrific services available now.
All right, so we've said lifestyle a lot, and in comparison, I guess if you're trying to compare it, you have to compare it to the suburbs. So let's talk about that lifestyle difference.
Well, my daughter has 3 more years, actually 3.5 years until she graduates from high school, and I'm really who's counting? But suburban difference is it's a car lifestyle, and I think when you move to downtown, you have so much freedom and spontaneity because it doesn't involve getting in the car. The other thing is, each building is like a beehive in its own neighborhood versus the roof of a single house. I wrote car less lifestyle. You can't get away without a car in Austin. However, you certainly use it a lot less, and walking's great exercise. With a condo, you can literally shut the door and leave for an hour or a month. You can go away and not worry. It will be looked after. You just don't have the same concerns that you have with a single house. Low maintenance. It's very easy. There's a staff there to help out. You don't have a yard. You don't have a lot of the obligations that a homeowner in the suburbs has.
Yeah, the most yard work I do is sweeping off the balcony and making sure the plants get some water.
I was going to say, you have to have a couple of potted plants that
you have to have a little green. I agree.
And as far as urban activities, I mean, throughout Austin's a great town because there is literally a festival for every occasion. So there's an abundance of activities. But what's so cool is downtown on the very same day, there could be 5 major events. You have the Capitol and the university. So, if you want to go to the Paramount Theater or go to a lecture or see a performance, You can go to dinner. There's no decision. You can do it all in one evening. And Elsa likes to talk about the condo building as your own little village, and that is really true. The people you see in your elevator every day, the guy down who runs the coffee shop, you get to know these folks, and they become your little community.
I think of each building as its own neighborhood with its own makeup, and just like you would pick if you were a suburban buyer, you would pick your neighborhood based on what it provided your family, your children. Same thing is true for each building in the downtown.
Well, my favorite one on here that we haven't really hit is the diversity. Well, I know within my building there's all kinds of different languages being spoken all the time, and it's kind of fun to guess what language they're speaking. So it's nice to know that your building's local, but it also has an international feel to it, and a lot of the buildings downtown have that.
That's true. And then another way to look at diversity is that just the makeup of each individual. You've got singles, you've got couples with small kids, and you even have, even though it's a smaller amount of the demographic, admittedly, you do have families downtown. There are buildings that have 3-bedroom units, and there are several families who actually live with middle school aged or older children.
Right. So let's talk about some of the events that happen downtown that you get to enjoy.
And we only have a short hour today, but we could spend about a year discussing
Definitely.
this. Of course, there's the farmers market, and that becomes a wonderful weekly habit. Movies in the park, the symphony. 4th of July is one of the nicest occasions in Austin. It's just so comfortable. You can get there and just spread out your blanket and love that picnic. Auditorium Shores just always has activities. And I actually only recently learned that the bridge is now the Ann Richards Bridge instead of Congress Bridge. The holiday sing-along with John Ailey is just a lot of fun. We do that every year. And then, of course, all the runs through town. So there's just an endless amount of activities and really something for everybody.
I can't believe you left off Barkitecture.
Oh, sorry.
This is one of my favorite events. The 2nd Street District has a life of its own, and they have so many mini festivals, and Barkitecture, being a dog owner, love it.
And we decided that this is the section where we talk about, the necessity of having sunglasses and a little hat you can pull out just so you can go out and walk the dog at 6 in the morning and not really be seen.
Well, and the other thing, too, is a lot of people from outside of downtown do come to these events.
Right.
But they have to get in a car, and they have to find parking, and they have to fight the traffic. Like, if you remember just recently, the Kite Festival, I was leaving downtown and watching people hop the curb into the grass to park to go when we could ride our bike or walk to go to it.
So completely stress-free.
Stress-free all the way. Yeah, exactly.
And
Best
I
way
love
to put
that.
it.
That's so fantastic.
Mm-hmm. So we talked a little bit about who lives downtown. Let's get into that a little bit more.
And it's funny when, some years back with all the new construction, we weren't really sure who was going to buy. But ultimately, it's mostly locals, mostly Texans are buying. UT, so many people have such fond memories that they may have to move to another city, but they still want a little stake in downtown Austin.
Let me plug that real quick. UT has the largest living alumni in the world.
Hook 'em.
Hook 'em horns.
And while that's true, also it's good to know that it's not just those alumni that live elsewhere. When we say local, it is people who are coming from Lakeway or coming from Spicewood or coming from Steiner who are choosing to live downtown.
And, it could be people who are single, maybe they're in their 20s, 30s, or they could be newly singled. And, that's a whole other population that moves downtown. They sort of can give up the suburban lifestyle and really kick up their heels. So a lot of very happy condo buyers out
Definitely.
there. Also, ditto for empty nesters. They've sort of worked very hard their whole lives, taking care of their kids. When they go off to college, it's a whole different ballgame, and they can come and really enjoy a different and much richer cultural lifestyle than they could in the suburbs. And certainly young professionals. We explored, I know Elsa's flogging the families, the 3 bedrooms,
Well,
but it's not so much. I mean, really.
No, and that's a small portion of the demographic, but it's good to know you get a little bit of everything from 20-somethings to 60-somethings and above, families in between. Depending on which building you're in, you get a little bit more of each than the other, but downtown is for everyone. There's something to be had for everybody.
Well
And
said.
Matthews is an excellent elementary school, really top notch, and so it's certainly not a compromise educationally.
Yeah, there's a family that lives down the hall from me, and they function very well there. You know, 2 twin boys and 2
old
UT
are they?
professors. They're 12 and 13.
All right, that's middle.
So
That's
middle
brave.
school. Yeah, they're going to be going to high school soon. They're going to be going across downtown to Austin High. But they love it because they took their spring break, got badges, and went to South by Southwest as a family. And it's different. It's an alternative lifestyle, but it's fun. And
Spring break in your backyard, literally.
literally.
What a great way to grow up.
Yeah, they were joking about, going, how many days they were going to go have breakfast at the Four Seasons and listen to the concerts during spring break. Needless to say, I was a little bit jealous. Okay, so we've talked about 27 different buildings downtown.
Yeah.
That's residential alone. And if you're looking at it in that, like you said, macro level, I love that term, there are a lot of decisions to make between the buildings themselves, not just downtown versus suburbs.
And when I sit down as a realtor and I meet someone for the first time and they say I'd like to explore downtown living, I really interview them before we even go to visit anything. I want to find out sort of what makes them tick. Do they love to jog and be out of doors? Are they more interested in culture? Where do they have to commute? So how can we determine a location that will support that daily requirement? That's a big decision. Also, one of the things too is just get shaped up with a pre-qual. There are expenses such as HOAs that change the texture of the loan, but really kind of find out what you can afford. We never push people to purchase to the max of what they can afford. It's really what is comfortable for them. We also look at the population of each building. And, I suggest for buyers, just go spend some time stomping around. It's a pleasure. And look at the lobby of each building. Kind of hang out. Are these your people? Are these the folks that you would want to run into in the elevator or at the coffee shop? Also, there's so many different styles. Wonderful choice of styles. So think about your personal aesthetic, and maybe it takes a few visits to different condos to develop that sense of what you really love and would like to surround yourself with. Whether it's soft contemporary or super sleek and sophisticated like the W, or a big industrial space, cement floor, aluminum railings, or it could be an old-fashioned open loft. It's really so unique to your own personality and what you want, but it's out there. We also want people to create kind of a wish list. Is the hike and bike trail the gem of Austin, in your opinion? So how close do you kayak? How close can you be to that? Or are you more of a restaurant and performance person? Maybe we get you closer to the Paramount Theater. Do you like to go to the farmer's market? So these are all things. I have one client, and he said, I don't care where I live, I just need to be in walking distance of Whole Foods. And
I've
that was
heard
his
that
criteria.
so many times, yeah.
Yeah, he's single, he didn't want to cook, and, he wanted to eat healthy, and that's all I cared about. So, we just did a circumference, and we looked at everything within that little short circumference, and it worked very well.
Well, my favorite one was the client who had 2 requirements, and that was it. Literally everything else didn't matter too much. She wanted to be near Amtrak so she could hop on the train to go visit family in San Antonio without having to drive. And then she wanted natural light. So I've never had a client walk into a place and turn off the lights. She would walk in, hit the switches, and see how much light was coming into the unit.
That's a very good custom.
Yeah, it really is. And I will do that from now on, too.
Well, and we've closed units where the buyer remarked that the noise level or lack thereof was very important, and so they actually, in choosing their condominium unit, visited the unit several different times of the day throughout a week just to hear what activity was like outside, what they could or couldn't hear.
And the quality of the build out is very different for each building. It's Bridges is right next to Lamar, and you'd think that was a problem, but it's so well engineered. It's quiet and perfect inside. Whereas another one over near the lake, you'd assume it was quieter, but in fact, you can hear your neighbor above stomping around, and it's a common complaint.
Definitely.
So, also, just again in that list, get your daily needs down and what you require. It's a big deal if you need 2 garage spaces for a 1-bedroom. That really narrows your list down dramatically. It's also, important to know if you need 24-hour service. Will you be working there? And therefore, would you need another space within your dwelling so that you could have an office area? And then some people have more guests than others, and guest parking can be a big deal.
Well, a lot of things, something that most people won't consider that downtown residents do is, maybe I will buy 2 in the building and have one as an office and one as a residence. And that might seem a little ridiculous, but it happens way more than you think.
A lot of people do it.
Definitely.
Well, it makes sense. And, it's nice to have a break away from the computer and everything, all the noise that goes on with the work, and just walk away from it.
Yeah, I agree.
And the last one was types of condos. And some people are more sensitive to others about, height. Some people prefer a high-rise. I personally like a mid-rise. To me, that's a good human-scale condo. I like high-rises in other kinds of more dense urban environments. But so that's another thing, just the height of the building.
Yeah, and everybody does have their different preferences. And real quick, we're about halfway through. And so if you've got some questions for us, please type them in and have them in there. We'll get at the very end, the last 15 minutes, we'll go through some of the different questions that you have for us. So write them in as you think of them, and then we'll get to them at the end. We're going to keep pushing through and get through the rest of these slides here. So parking.
The condo conundrum. What's really kind of funny about this page is if you live downtown, it's really not a problem for you. It's a problem for your visitors. But still, we go back to that wonderful 1.5 occupants per dwelling. So typically a 1-bedroom sells 1 parking place. And, there are options, there are creative solutions to that if you just absolutely need 2 cars. You can actually purchase an extra space, and a lot of people were buying spaces for around $25,000 a piece. But Patrick, you were talking about leasing spaces, which is a very cool option.
A lot of the bigger units in my building have extra spots, so they just lease them to other residences, and it's a great win-win.
And how much does that go for example?
It does vary, but on average, it's $100 to $150 a month.
Which is a good deal. It really is a good deal.
Yeah, I mean, they say when they build a parking garage downtown, it costs about $10,000 a spot. But if they're, like Gail said, in a building like that, they're closer to 25 and above to get to buy an extra spot if they have that even as an option.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I can let you know that I do have friends who, living downtown, have chosen to get rid of 1 car even though they're 2 couples, because it's very easy for one person to have the use of the car and then the other to have full amenities available to them within walking distance or within moped distance.
Yeah, we tried the scooter lifestyle a little bit. Didn't work out for me, but I won't go into that.
We also, there are creative solutions for every problem, and, overflow parking when there's a big special event. And I love the way the Shore handles it, which is, go and ask the nice people over at the Mexican American Cultural Association if you can use their parking spaces. So, there's always a solution out there. Pretty much all the condos have carts of some sort for baggage and groceries for schlepping it in.
Or you can have it delivered by someone else to schlep it in completely.
Yes, that's,
anything and everything's deliverable downtown.
It really,
I agree with that.
It really is. And storage facilities, that's something important, and those are typically in the parking garage. So that's something to check out. And again, safety, it's a safe area, of course, but you want a well-lit, secure, and monitored parking garage. So that's, critical on the list as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and a lot of the newer buildings had to do a lot of adjustments with the different gate systems and cameras and the concierge monitoring, because I know our building, all the bikes got stolen like the first month we moved in there because everybody thought they could just leave their bike out. So we ended up having to create bike lockers. Mm-hmm. So it's for most of the building, because we didn't have a ton of residential condos downtown before. The builders are learning too.
Yes.
So, but it ended up working out, and our building's extremely secure. Mm-hmm. Oh, your favorite topic.
Oh, this one. I love this one. It's such a modern solution, the Condo. And Patrick actually subscribes to it and uses it all the time. But I just think it's fantastic.
Well, it's a real simple business model. You get a card for $35. It's a one-time fee. And then whenever you need a car, you pull out your iPhone, open the app, see where a car to go is near you. Go pick it up. You can also reserve them if you have something that you absolutely need the car for. And then they charge you by the minute that you're driving it. And if you go grocery shopping, for instance, you can keep the key in the car so that when you walk outside, it's still there. Other times, if you just needed to get one place, you just leave the key inside. It's brilliant to the point that if it's running low on gas, there's a gas card in the glove compartment, and you just swipe the gas card and pay for gas through the Car2Go system, and then keep going. So
it's wonderful. I know they got swamped during South by Southwest.
Yeah, most of the time there's cars everywhere. I've never had an issue finding one.
Well, when you've got that many people coming in to visit downtown, not bringing their cars with them, obviously you're going to have a run on it. But I do know Car2Go is expanding their fleet to accommodate, and there is talk of some other potential. Some competition for Car2Go moving into the downtown area too.
Wonderful. We love those growing businesses.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, and this is my favorite.
This one is your favorite.
I have to put a plug in for Cap Metro. If everybody thought bus riding was cool, we would be in great shape in Austin because we're not really set up with subways and trolleys. Mm-hmm. So the Cap Metro buses are a great option for getting around. And I'd love to see everybody use it a lot more.
Yeah, it's good to note, too, that in the future, there's a lot on the plate for possibility when it comes to mass transit in downtown. We do have trolley and some rail systems that are on the plate to be voted on, and so those might be coming soon. And actually, it would be great if they did because it would make us much more like the size of city that we are.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. All right, view. The view you have from your condo is a big deal. Let's talk about that, Gail.
Well, this is really important. This really can make or break a condo living experience. And again, you kind of have to think about what's your sleep work cycle. If you work the graveyard shift, you might not want that blazing western sun view. Some investors early on perhaps picked the cheapest units to invest in, only to get stuck later in resale because it was facing a highway versus a lake. So, you really have to be very careful. You also have to think about your own personal needs. You could, be looking at trees, office building, a trailer park. I mean, I think on Barton Springs, it's so great that, you have these gorgeous luxury condos and you look out the window at a trailer park.
Okay, let's be honest. It is not the average trailer park. Matthew McConaughey owns one of those trailers, and I would be happy to have my view look out on him any day. And also, didn't you tell me earlier there's a 14-year waiting list for that trailer?
There's a 14-year waiting list. I think Patrick's on the list.
I'm on the list only because I don't know what kind of lifestyle I want in 14 years. Right. Maybe I want a spot.
What trailer park do you know that has a 14-year waiting list? Obviously, this is something good to look at.
But we love it. We think that's fully Austin, and we hope the out-of-towners get the irony of it. But it's a wonderful Austin element. And if you're buying into something that hasn't been built yet, or if there's an empty lot next door, you really need to know. If it's an alleyway across and you can reach over and they're planning a high-rise, that's going to change the context of your condo experience. First of all, you'll have to live through the construction, which isn't pleasant, and then it might block all your sun. So you really do need to know. If it's unbuilt, you can actually get a crane-level photograph for the specific floor and view from your future window. So really push that. That is going to make or break your condo experience. And, you want to pick your view. It might well be looking into the windows of a high-rise. that might be your thing. So it's a lot. It's a pastime for a lot of people in lots of urban areas.
I remember standing inside the Austin City Lofts, which were the high end at the time, and they still are, honestly.
Yeah.
But standing on the balcony and looking up at some construction workers in the Monarch, and it kind of was a little perturbing. You're in the penthouse of this extremely nice building, looking up at smaller residences and apartments at that. So it's like Gail said, it's a huge factor.
It really is.
But it's still there's not a bad view in any of these buildings, and especially, during 4th of July, some of those views at Austin City Lofts are the best because you're looking right at all the fireworks that are going off from Auditorium Shores. And you've got the activity on the street, and the Monarch doesn't take up all of those views. So
and 360 around every part of downtown is green. Like you look north, it's green. You look east, it's green. And that goes to the design of Austin too. That you look out to the west and it's hill country green. So you have beautiful escaping views every direction. Wrong button. Hold on. There we go. The fun part.
Yeah, this is the the amenities, and what is the package of each building, and it really is different, and it's getting so interesting with some of the future plans for buildings, things like plug-in rechargers in the parking lot. But the boilerplate amenities are not all the downtown condos have 24-hour concierge, but that's something that you could request. A fitness center. It could be a treadmill stuck in a dark little room as an afterthought. So, you really do want to look at it. The differences are pretty stark building to building, but basically everybody does offer some kind of gesture towards fitness. There's visitor parking. Again, it could be 2 spots or it could be an ample parking area. Pools could be, dip your foot in pool and have a margarita, or a beautiful lap pool. So that's a big difference too. Pretty much all of them have outdoor grilling areas. And again, the quality. But you get into some of the luxury buildings and it's really just mind-blowing what they're offering. Elsa, I don't know if you want to talk about, the W offers hamper to drawer laundry service. They stock your fridge. The valet each morning meets you with a cup of coffee made to your liking for your commute. And I know your favorite subject is the doggy play park.
I'm a dog owner and I love them, but each building has its own mix. But I really like doggy play parks. There's enough of a park system in Austin where if the building doesn't have it, you can get it elsewhere. But for those buildings that do have it, it is kind of the water cooler of the building, and you get all your neighbors congregating in one area with puppies. Who doesn't love a puppy? It's just a good place to be.
Well, I hate to push through these a little bit. Okay. We're running a little bit low on time, so we're going to keep clicking through here. Pricing. Let's talk about pricing for downtown.
Okay. These are just the recently completed condos, and as we touched on earlier, there's a world of difference between all condos versus the more recent built. They're obviously a lot more expensive on average. The high is about $550 for a 1-bedroom. The low is $191. Really, again, something for everybody's budget. The cost per square foot ranges $665 to $304. And HOA dues, the homeowner association dues, range from 63 cents a square foot to a low of 23 cents a square foot. So that's a pretty dramatic difference.
Yeah, and they cover the different range of amenities, which we just went through.
Right.
And a lot of those amenities are add-ons to that fee. So just to make this number more realistic, the 63 cents a square foot, so if you have 1,000 square feet, $630 a month.
Yep.
So, all right. So some recent stats for downtown.
Yeah, this is just straight off MLS, and an appraiser looks at last 3 months of activity, which is what I pulled. So of all the 28 units that sold, they were built from 1949 all the way to 2011. And this does not reflect all the new built condos.
Right, Gail. Most of the new buildings don't put all of their units, and definitely don't put all their sales in to MLS. They put only a handful.
They'll put one teaser unit just to get people to call from a different.
There were many more than 28 sales last month.
Right. And then the average cost, according to MLS, was in the $350 range per square foot.
So this is mostly resale, maybe a few new homes mixed into this last 3 months with 28 solds.
But it doesn't reflect the whole population of condominiums.
Gotcha. So a fun thing to talk about is when buying some of these newer things is negotiating what you can get from these developers.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it depends. It depends on the cycle and what the developer's needs are, but they'll, for example, over at the Four Seasons, they might give you a gift card to restaurants. That's pretty cool. That's a nice.
And not just a $50 gift card, a year's worth of food almost.
They want to get you addicted to going to their beautiful restaurants.
Yeah, that's the truth.
And the finish out, of course, and early on now, this is not happening so much, but parking spaces were sometimes negotiable. Sometimes you could bump up to 2 parking spaces for a 1-bedroom, but that doesn't happen as much as it used to.
Yeah.
Storage units, that's something. And blinds, again, they're pretty expensive for each window, so that's something that you might be able to negotiate. And first year of HOA dues, which if it's $630 a month, like we talked about, that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the good thing to remember about negotiating is this is when it becomes very, how should I say, invaluable to have a realtor representing you, because a realtor who works downtown is going to know which building is in what position and which building will negotiate or can negotiate. Some are at different points, as you said, in their cycle, and so you don't want to draw your line too firm in the sand, knowing that demand is high. You can out-negotiate yourself, and you might settle for exactly what they're offering, but when you come back to do that, it might be gone.
Right, and that happened a lot for different buildings. A lot of people didn't get the units they initially identified.
Okay, so we need to talk a little bit about how to pay for these things, getting a loan on one of the condos.
Yeah, this is the big ugly. And we call this the fine print section, which is for people who need to go through the loan process. And you want to get a lender who has expertise in condos, because the regulations are changing weekly. It's mind-boggling, the requirements, and it's a huge headache and nightmare for a lot of developers because they need to attain warrantable status to offer the best and most affordable loans to potential buyers.
And warrantable is a term you're going to hear a lot when you're talking about lending in condos.
And the rules have changed. It was at one time 50% occupancy, and then it bumped up to 70%. So sometimes that 20% spread meant I could get my client a really good deal because the building was just trying to bump the numbers up to get warrantable. That's how important it is. And the warrantability refers to the entire building and not just the particular unit. So this is for the president of the HOA to know all about, how to retain their warrantability. And I heard that I think 23,000 buildings across the U.S. lost their FHA approval status this last year, which is a nightmare for those condo owners who might not be able to sell to potential buyers.
So to underscore what you said earlier, using a lender who is familiar with condos, but you want to make sure that they're recently familiar with condos and that you actually define when the last condo purchase was that they worked in, because it is changing so quickly, and 6 months ago doesn't necessarily provide the same story. So, and
it's a discipline within the lending process, so that is really critical, and it will make the process either a wonderful experience or a misery.
So let's just give a quick shout out to Pam Jameson with Fairway Mortgage, who is on the broadcast here live watching this, who did provide all this great information for us.
She's fantastic, and she really knows her stuff. The key takeaway for the buyer on this page is just start with the questionnaire document request with the HOA. The HOAs will charge for the documents, so just do the questionnaire only, and then if the process proceeds and you need more later, because you'll secure the loan, then you're good to go. But you can save money by being disciplined up front.
So let's talk a little bit about the future downtown. We've talked about what's kind of happened in the last 10 years and got a little history lesson too. So what's the future looking like?
Yeah, I mean, really they're projecting a maximum capacity of double of what we have now. It'll be about 25,000 inhabitants ultimately. So we are really at a middle stage of our downtown life cycle.
There's a lot that it's going to take to get to that 25,000, and some of that has to deal with some of the development requirements that developers need in order to actually build more residential downtown. There's quite a bit zoning changes, and it's a huge conundrum. But the 20 by 20 grid could support 25,000, and I think it'd be as vibrant of a city as we have now with 11,000. Just think what it will be at 25.
Well, let's talk real quick a little bit about what we'd like to see happen downtown too.
Yeah, and this is kind of a mix, a hodgepodge. But Elsa was talking about a more mature transit system with urban rail and a connector system. We really need that. That's going to be coming up, I guess, 2012. So just more regional mobility to get people in and out. I love the European cities with lots of trees and walk areas. In San Francisco, they ripped up cement and built a beautiful Victory Garden right in the center of town, which is fantastic. We'd love a world-class Waller Creek corridor, Waterloo and Palm Parks. Car attitude adjustment is going to continue to evolve, and hopefully there'll be better options available to people. It's not really anybody's fault they have to drive at this time because there aren't many good options.
Well, when you said over 300,000 people are converging on downtown at any point during the day, it can get a little crazy. Mm-hmm. And I've experienced that. The car attitude is exactly right. There are so many people who don't understand that it's such a tight little place that they're entering.
Well, it's actually 63,000.
63,000,
that converge, and over 363,000 that live within 10 minutes of downtown. Gotcha. They could converge if they all want.
And, some interesting things like the Green Roof Initiative, you've got to build that into the infrastructure of a building, but that can really help cool the temperatures. And lastly, one of the things that people are asking for now that there's this population is, could we have more just daily services? I'd love a local dentist. I'd love a little convenience store. I'd love a lot of these little shops so that we can walk out and buy cheese and go back and enjoy ourselves. So that's kind of a wish list. The feeling right now is generally there are enough restaurants and bars, but some hardcore services for daily needs.
As I understand it, Austin has the highest per capita restaurants and bars in the United States. So you're right, we've got a lot of them.
Yep, there's no end choices.
So let's do the Q&A real quick. We got a few questions here. Since we ran a little over, we're not going to try to cover too many. First one's real practical. Where do you shop? Where do you go get your groceries?
Well, really, Whole Foods has the lion's share of that market. Yeah. Organic, it's fresh, it's an Austin-grown company, so people absolutely love it. There's a place to dine there. It really is the big provider.
But I would also say that there are actually quite a few little more mom and pop convenience stores, and then the farmers market too offers a lot as far as your produce goes. But then you realize when you are living downtown, your lifestyle can change, and you actually, I find, use less groceries because you're eating out more and you're on the fly a little bit more. So there's not as much that you need to purchase.
Sure. And there are a few businesses like the Royal Blue Groceries open till midnight, which is fun. It's a smaller little shop.
I'll tell you what I like about Royal Blue is they'll have the high-end version of a product and the low-end version sitting right next to each other.
That's great.
So if you want to spend $3, or say $3, if you want to spend $7 on a bottle of wine there, you can, or you can spend $50. So
French foie gras or chopped liver.
Yeah, they have both right on the same shelf.
Perfect.
So some other things we mentioned quickly, pets, and as I'll tell you, firsthand experience, there's a lot of pets downtown. A lot of people think, well, I don't want to take my dog down there, but that is truly an option for downtown, right?
Definitely, of every size, color, breed, and they've got you've got a couple veterinarian options. I'll give a shout out to Austin Urban Vet. That's where my little dog goes, and he goes to play care there during the day. Thinks he's the mayor. It's a great setup for dogs downtown.
Oh, that's great. Well, one question that a lot of people ask too is, you've got your house out in, let's just say Westlake, for example, and you've got extra rooms, you've got place for guests to stay. What do you do when you have guests and you're living downtown?
Well, the Austonian has a really nice little system of discounted guest rooms that can be rented. So that's a wonderful solution.
Same thing
Especially if they stay for more than 3 days.
Well, and the 555, the Debbie, and the Four Seasons all give their residents discounted rates on hotel rooms for guests when they come in, or for themselves if they want to travel within the system.
That's great. Well, I hate to say it, but I do enjoy the fact that when people want to come visit me, they're staying at a hotel. Or you can say no.
That's wonderful.
So you can look at that in a very positive light if you want to.
That's right. You can't
Definitely.
accommodate every relative that ever wanted to come to South by Southwest.
Well, I think we're going to leave it at that at the end of this question and answer session.
Okay.
Elsa, that was amazing. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Again, big shout out to Heritage Title. They have always treated us right.
I always refer them to my clients. The service is unsurpassed.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Gail Boston, realtor with West Austin Properties. Like she said, she's a native of Austin. She saw all of this happen over the years. So we had a lot of fun. I hope you did too. And thank you for joining us. And we're going to click off from here. Thank you so much.